Hey guys, if you can believe it, this is the last week. The last week in May. I can't believe this year's flying by already. We are closing in on our 2-year anniversary, coming up in July, and our 100th episode, which should be out in August. And none of that could be possible without our sponsors. And this month's sponsor is Figurosity.com. We've really gotten to be known around town for our life drawing events at the New World Tavern, and they're so popular. We had to make them twice a month. So now that they're twice a month, people are getting twice the figure drawing, but sometimes that's not even enough for everybody. They want more. And we can't run them 24/7, but you can draw the human form on your own schedule by using Figurosity.com. It's a website that has computer-generated models that you can draw from. It's free to use up to a certain extent. You can go on there and check out what they have. Or you can sign up for their monthly service, which gives you a lot more options. You can change the lighting, you can change the angle, you can draw a clothed figure, a nude figure, one that's kind of more just like a mannequin style, or the musculature. So there's a lot more options on the pay side, and it's short money, so it's not going to break the bank. And they've been super nice. They sponsored us before, and they're back again, and they've given us another coupon code. So you can use the coupon code ARTWEEK4, and ARTWEEK4 will give you $5 off your purchase, which equates to the first month free, or if you're going to sign up for the whole year, it's about a month and a half. And it's well worth the money. I mean, it's $5 to hone your skills to get a lot better at drawing the human form, which is one of the most challenging things to draw. So thanks again to Figurosity. So go to Figurosity.com and check out what they have. You can check out the free side of it, and if you like it, then sign up and use the coupon code ARTWEEK4 to get $5 off your purchase. And now we'll get back into the podcast. Hello?
Hey, Andy?
Yeah? Is this JV?
JV.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize about the other night when we went to edit the file. It was just essentially completely gone.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What do you use?
It is an app on my phone that I've used before, and I think it was because of the storm that was actually going on. My phone kept trying to switch between Wi-Fi and like the regular signal, and I think it screwed up the recording.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So that's my best guess. I mean, so I apologize. Appreciate you giving us another shot. So
that's all right. We'll get it done.
Cool. All right. So welcome back, Inebri-art. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast, and so we had this recording the other night, and unfortunately, we had a little technical difficulty. So we brought back JV from Scaricon to give it another shot. JV, thanks for giving us another try and coming back on the show.
It's like deja vu all over again.
You're a radio professional. These things happen, right?
No, they happen all the time. It's way too frequent. I can't tell you the number of times I've had to scramble because of either a technical difficulty or back in the days when we used tape, the tape recorder craps out in the middle of an interview or something. It's just, stuff happens. It just happens.
Well, thanks for understanding. But so you are the godfather of Scaricon, and how did you get into the horror convention business?
You say godfather, I think I'm more like a stepchild because it's so much work. But how did I get into the horror convention business? It's kind of interesting because I think like most people who end up here start out as a fan, and you go to your conventions for whatever reason, and you start to fall in love with the convention environment. And if you happen to be in an area that just is void of conventions, which I was, you think, hey, you know what? We need one here. No one else is doing it, so I'm going to give it a shot. And that's what I did in 2011 in the Syracuse, New York area. And that's, we've grown ever since.
And so since 2011, you've been doing Syracuse area, and now you're bringing it to New England. What led you to bring it to New England? Was it like a
Salem witch trial history kind of thing, or was there more to it than that?
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. I, really enjoyed doing the convention, and once a year in Syracuse was enough, but once a year for me wasn't enough. So I started looking at some place that I could do another event and kind of space them 6 months apart. And I didn't want to have to, go somewhere where I was completely unfamiliar with the demographics and the geography. And I'm pretty familiar with New England, having grown up in New York State my whole life. And I also knew from my work in the paranormal community that, and attending other conventions, that New England tends to have a very, very dedicated, loyal, and enthusiastic fan base.
They're almost fanatical.
Yeah, they really are, and that's what makes it wonderful. So I thought, you know what, this is a great place. It's not too far from me to be able to manage it. It's only 3-4 hours tops for me to get to anywhere in the vicinity. And I thought this is a great place. It's got the right people. It's got the right mindset. It's within, my geographical knowledge as far as who does what. And let's give it a shot. So this will be our third year, but it's our first year in Framingham. We've been in Springfield, Massachusetts, the last 2 years.
So you're coming a little farther east this time, and you said it's about 3 or 4 hours from you. And I always feel like people tend to travel to their events, their destinations. And in Framingham, it takes place in a convention center and hotel. It's all very connected. It looks like a giant castle. Are you expecting a big party vibe from the attendees?
Yeah, one of the things that I try to do with all my events is create that party vibe. Obviously walking around a convention floor, getting autographs and visiting the vendors and that kind of thing is a big part of any convention. But what sets a convention apart from other conventions is when you have a social environment that invites you to participate, not just with other attendees, but with the celebrities. And that's what we focus on. That's one of the things that I do when I pick the celebrities. I attend a lot of events myself. I watch and see which ones are willing to mingle with attendees and which ones, go in their room and hide for the whole night. And we do have some of those too, just because some of the bigger names have to do that, just because to stay sane they do that. But I understand. But the party environment is huge for me, and I'm not necessarily meaning music and adult beverages, although that's a big part of it. I'm just talking about the ability to mingle and socialize with like-minded people and celebrities from the genre. And the Framingham location, the Sheraton there, is perfect for that. Springfield, we had a great location there. We were in the Mass Mutual Center, but it was a couple blocks from the hotel. The hotel itself didn't really have adequate space for us to have the party we wanted, and there was no other place within walking distance that would accommodate our parties. So it kind of was just awkward. We kind of had to, adapt to the facility instead of the facility adapting to us. And with Framingham, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I think you found the right place this time. And so you've talked a lot about celebrities. Who are some of the celebrities that are going to be there this time?
Well, our headliners are people that we've been trying to get for a very long time. I tell you, I have had more email interaction with Cassandra Peterson, who, of course, is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, in the last 8 years than I think I've emailed anybody else in my world. And finally, schedules collided and synchronicities lined up, and Cassandra is able to do this event. And so Elvira is one of our top headliners. Also, Dee Snider, who from Twisted Sister, the lead singer of Twisted Sister, but he's also was involved in Adam Green's TV show Holliston, and he did Strangeland of Strangeland. He's got a bunch of credits to his name, and he's just a dynamic personality, and he's somebody we've been trying to get for a while, so we're excited about him. And Danny Lloyd, the little Danny Torrance from the 1980 movie The Shining, which I think is one of the best horror movies of all time, even though was a kind of a lot of people look at box office smashes and say, oh, they can't be a great horror movie, but some of them are, and this is one of them. Doug Bradley from the Hellraiser movies, Amy Steele from Friday the 13th, of course, Tom Savini, who is just a prolific horror contributor, David Naughton from American Werewolf in London, plus we've got what we call our Scaricon ambassadors. It's a group of people that I have almost at every event because they're just so great to fans and they're so much fun after hours, like Felissa Rose, Jason Lively, Ricky Dean Logan, Sean Whalen. If you haven't seen Sean Whalen sing at a VIP party, you are really missing out because he takes the stage and takes the microphone and he just is in his element. There's no question about it. It's the best time.
So is this like a karaoke type of situation?
Well, it's a band, or in the case of the VIP party, it's an acoustic band, but they can play anything. In fact, I sit in with them occasionally, and other celebrities. In Springfield last year, Sid Haig actually got up and sang a blues song, and that was magical. And videos were flying all over social media of Sid Haig singing, and I don't even know what the song was, but it was a simple blues tune. But yeah, you don't see Sid Haig smile much.
No.
He was smiling that night. It was really amazing.
Oh, that's so weird. Like, I can't even picture him singing. And I actually, I was at a convention. I saw him perform a wedding.
You mean officiate a wedding?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, too. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, of course he was dressed as Captain Spaulding at the time, too.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. So you've had Sid Haig. What are some of the other highlights of your past guests that you've had that are really notable that you would call out?
Yeah, well, over the course of, again, how many years now? We're looking at this is our 8th year. There's been so many, it's kind of hard to single them out, but we've had, people like Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich and Linda Blair and Tony Todd and oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name. Who Ghostbusters? Ernie Hudson.
Oh yeah.
Man, I'm blanking on this stuff. And then people like Vernon Wells and it's a huge list of people. A. Michael Baldwin from Phantasm. Eddie Munster, of course, better known as
Butch Patrick. Yep.
Yeah, people that Felix Silla and Deep Roy. Linda Harrison was somebody I was really excited to meet. She, of course, played Nova in the original 1968 Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston. Mm-hmm. And she was fun to meet. It's just been a very, very long list of people, and to single them out would be a disservice to the ones that I'm having trouble remembering because they've all been great.
And what kind of vendors can people expect to see when they check out ScareCon?
It depends on how much imagination you have, because that's what I found. Even when you think you figured out what you're going to see, and I do every year, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what we're going to have, and it always surprises me because the creativity and the uniqueness of the vendors that attend these conventions, and I know specifically with ScareCon, always impresses me. People who put their heart and soul into products that they either make themselves or custom design and have someone else make, or whatever it happens to be, and they bring them to these events. You cannot find these types of things, on Amazon or in a store or whatever. These things are unique to these conventions, and they're pretty amazing. Plus, you've got, some like hard to find movie vendors and those kind of things that are there. You can look through thousands of DVDs or Blu-rays and find movies that you've been looking for, that kind of thing too. Gifts. Halloween decorations, it runs the gamut, and it's all pretty amazing.
To me, that's some of the most fun is walking the convention, and the horror conventions seem to bring in more artisans that create things. I've seen beakers that were turned into candles that look like they have some sort of fluorescent green liquid in it, or a jar full of eyeballs that's a candle, or a saw blade, wall clock, and it's just, they run the gambit of really interesting objects. And the other thing that you see a lot of is a lot of independent authors and filmmakers. Do you expect to have that sort of thing as well?
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that. We do have, not just have them, but like with filmmakers, we show some of their films. We've got some pretty cool films that will be premiering, or if not premiering, we'll be showing that are, just things you can't see elsewhere. And we like to support the independent filmmakers. And in fact, as you know, we also really like to support podcasters. I don't think podcasters get nearly enough recognition in this industry, and they are really the life's blood of getting information out. But like, I'm just looking at our list here. We have a premiere of a film called Exposure coming up that was written and directed by Austin Snell, and this will be a premiere. It's a great film. You're not going to see it anywhere else, and these are the types of things we like to do. Another one that we're showing is called 420 Massacre, and it's not one that you're going to be able to see in a lot of places. Circus of the Dead is another one. These are films that are included in your Scaricon admission. All you have to do is be an attendee, and you get to go in and see these things, and you get to support these filmmakers, and the filmmakers themselves will be there to talk about how they made the film and, and kind of get an idea of what they were thinking or what they're doing next or whatever it happens to be. And authors the same way. We've got several authors that'll be on the floor displaying their work, talking about their work. Some of them are giving panel discussions about how you too, if you're interested in being a horror author, how you can do it.
Oh, that's awesome. So there's going to be movies to watch. There's going to be author panels. Are there other panels that you guys are going to be having that you can mention?
Yeah, no, all of our celebrities will be participating in either a standalone, Q&A session, as in the case of some of our bigger names, or panel discussions like a Scream Queen panel with several of the Scream Queens like Felissa Rose, Kelly Maroney, Lynn Lowry that'll be at the event, or a discussion of, 1980s horror films. Have a panel of people that were in those films. We've got a couple of Freddy Krueger's quote unquote victims in attendance in the name of Ricky Dean Logan and Mark Patton. They'll do a little panel discussion about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise and what it's like to work with Robert Englund and being part of that series. So it really runs the gamut of what your imagination can hold, and the discussions are all fascinating. I mean, I go to these things myself when I have time, and I sit there in awe because the information and the discussions that occur are just things you're not going to see anywhere else.
Yeah, and it to me, it's almost like a live podcast where you get to participate, so it's not just the person telling their story to an interviewer. You get to ask questions and interact with the stars, and it should be a really good time.
Yeah, that's exactly true. You get to ask questions, you get to laugh, you get to applaud, you get to really participate in the energy, and they go on all day, both days of the event, Saturday and Sunday, in addition to films playing at the same time. So you have to make some decisions, because when you get there, you're going to look at the schedule, you're going to say, wow, I want to do all of these things, but unfortunately I'm going to have to choose because, just because we have to cram everything into 2 days, a lot of things are happening simultaneously.
Right, and I know we've talked recently that it is only a 2-day event this time because of other scheduling, but there is something going on that Friday night. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Now, normally our events are 3 days. We usually open on Friday. We usually have our VIP party Friday night, and then Saturday night we have our big general party, and then Sunday is kind of a wind-down day. But because we've moved to a new location, and our decision to make that move was made kind of late in terms of convention scheduling, the only weekend that was available that was near our time frame is the one that's coming up June 16th, 17th, and that Friday happened to be already booked in the Sheraton that we're going to be in. So we had to just accept that. Next year it'll be different. But what we will be doing Friday night, because most of the celebrities come in Friday, in fact, all of them come in Friday, many of the vendors will be there setting up Fridays. Friday is setup day for them in the evening. So we have an informal social gathering. It'll most likely just be right in the hotel bar, where celebrities, vendors, and any attendees that came Friday or come on Friday will be able to mingle as well and kind of kick off the environment, the atmosphere, and set the tone for the rest of the weekend.
Well, that sounds like a unique chance that you don't get necessarily at every convention to really hang out with the celebrities like that. And
it is for sure.
Yeah. So at a lot of comic conventions, there are cosplayers. Do you expect to see a lot of people in costume? We do.
And sometimes I'm just amazed at what people can do. And I know, and I've gone to a lot of the Comic-Cons too, and I have to say, I'm just in awe about what some people do and how they do it, and the amount of time, effort, and money they put into their cosplaying and their costumes. It's just amazing. We'll get those too. We've got a lot that come to all of our events. We have some that come to everyone, so we're used to seeing them, and they're great, and they take pictures. You don't have to pay for them generally. It's just it's a fan thing. And it creates a really cool environment for the event, when you see all these people running around in costume.
Yeah, it really kind of adds to the aesthetic of the whole thing and lends to that kind of, I don't know, creepy vibe.
Yeah, we really encourage it. It makes it a lot of fun.
So you are, by trade, a radio personality. Do you want to talk about your radio show?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I've been in radio since high school. It's kind of been my career. I actually owned 20 radio stations at one point, and I sold all of those and kind of retired. And that was one of the things that led me into horror conventions because I needed something to do and I wanted to do something I loved. But in between there, I did a lot of on-air work. And recently the opportunity came up because of all the work I'm doing to get involved in a paranormal talk show. And I'm sure many of your listeners have heard of this Coast to Coast. We're not Coast to Coast, but we're very, very similar. We're called Beyond Reality Radio. On a lot of radio stations, we actually precede Coast to Coast, and after, our show ends, Coast to Coast begins. But we talk about, paranormal topics like ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, conspiracy theories, anything that is a little bit unusual or odd or, the head-scratching kind of stuff, life after death. That's what we talk about, and it's Monday through Friday nights. It's live, except Friday nights is a best-of program because I demanded to have a 3-day weekend because I also play in a band. And we take calls. It also streams online. And if anybody's interested in getting more information, finding out what radio station it might be on near you, or listening online, just go to beyondrealityradio.com.
JV, that's what I love about entrepreneurs. They're like, oh, I retired, so now I only have a nightly radio show, play in a band, and run horror conventions.
Exactly.
So who is your guest host on the show?
I actually do the show with Jason Hawes, who many of you may know from Ghost Hunters. He was the lead guy, the actual creator of the show Ghost Hunters. That aired on Sci-Fi Channel for 11 seasons. It's been off the air a couple years, and that's when it went off the air is when he and I started talking about creating this radio show. And we did it online first. We just did it as a live stream show on Spreaker, which was the format we chose. And we were heard by Entercom Radio, which was one of the largest radio groups in the country. And they said, hey, we'd like to bring this show onto our stations. We will syndicate it for you. So we did that in August of 2016. And by March of 2017, Westwood One Radio Networks got involved and picked up the show, and they syndicated all over the world, actually.
So how many markets is your show heard in?
We're in about 80 right now, 80 stations, 80 markets. The list grows. It's a bit of a slow process, but we're adding a couple every month. If you look at the history of syndicated radio, by their standards, we're growing very, very quickly. By our standards, we want to grow faster.
And so Jason is known for being a skeptic. Does your show take kind of the skeptic stance? And if someone calls in and wants to talk, are they calling?
Yeah, we have guests on every show, and we take listener calls every show. Yes.
So if someone calls, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think I know what your question was. I was going to say, yeah, we take a bit of a skeptical approach, but here's the thing about what we do. We're not there. First of all, if we were to bring guests on and rip them apart and call them frauds, mm-hmm. we wouldn't get any guests. So
very true.
What we try to do is ask intelligent, thoughtful, thought-provoking questions and let the listeners decide for themselves what they want to believe and what they don't want to believe. And if they have questions, they call in and ask their questions. Our personal views about the topics or the guests, we leave to ourselves. We do not air them because it's not really about what we think about the guests. It's about what our listeners think about the guests. So we'll ask the questions, we'll probe, we'll dig a little deeper than most shows, but we leave the decisions up to the listeners and let them decide what they want. And I'll be honest with you. One of the things that makes a show like ours successful is that the people that tune in tend to want to believe. They tend to want to think that some of the things we're talking about are real. So we're not going to get into the way and throw our personal opinions around and change those beliefs.
What is probably the strangest topic you've had on there? I remember I was talking with my son not too long ago, and we were talking about conspiracy theories, and I told him how there is one where people believe that the Earth is hollow and that there's a civilization on the inside, and he was flabbergasted. What's the weirdest topic or experience that you heard on your show?
Well, we have had people on talking about the hollow Earth theory. We've had people on talking about hollow moon theory. We've had people on talking about flat Earth theory, that the Earth is not a globe, it's actually flat. and there's a dome above us.
That's a hot one right now, I think.
Yeah, it is, and we've had all that stuff on. But I tell you, the one that I don't know how to describe it per se as far as being weird. It's not necessarily weird, but I find it interesting. Is we had a gentleman on who claimed to be a time traveler from the year, I think it was 2032, and he came back to 2002 and has been living in our time since 2002, and he did that because during his travels, he met somebody and fell in love. This guy actually...
That's the best reason I've ever heard.
Yeah, this guy, he had been on Coast to Coast and was he was a bit of a phenomenon. His name was John Titer, and the reason I bring this up, because the topic is interesting, but also since we've had him on the show, I think it was 3 or 4 months after we had him on the show, somebody discovered his real identity and proved him to be a fake, and they did it on YouTube, and so he's been completely called out. We didn't do it, but somebody else did, and so you have to be careful. You have to be careful. Like I said, we let people tell their stories, and we let our listeners decide whether they're going to believe it or not.
Right. So you didn't put him on as this guy's 100% a time traveler. It's just kind of let's get you on and hear what you have to say.
Yeah, that's pretty. And we asked the questions. And one of the things that, bothered us is that if you're from the year 2032 and you've lived all these years already, give us one thing that's going to happen that we can count on. You should know if there is a major disaster in this year. That's something that you would remember. Is there going to be, could you tell us who's going to win the presidential election? We had him on before the last presidential election.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't give us any of that information. And, obviously that raises some red flags. We asked things like, is there going to be a cure for cancer by 2032? And he wouldn't tell us. I mean, why would you hold that information secret if you really knew it? So, we were quite skeptical of it. We didn't call him out. We just asked the questions, let him answer, and people decide for themselves.
Yeah. So if I wanted to hear that episode, is there a archive online?
There is. I think you can find it on iTunes. I don't think that our website goes back that far, because that would have been obviously before the election, so we're talking over a year ago. But it should be in the iTunes archive. That's
great. My all-time favorite conspiracy theory, and I've only ever heard it from one person, and it was kind of secondhand, like, my girlfriend's father kind of thing thinks this, and it was that there are no cows, that cows have gone extinct.
I can tell you that's not true. Well, I mean, I'm in upstate New York. We have a lot of cows, so either there are cows or there are people in cow suits all over the place. I don't know which.
When that question was asked, he said those are holograms.
Holograms?
Yeah.
Really? And did he actually believe this theory?
To the best of my knowledge, again, I heard the story secondhand, and it's still my favorite. I'm dying to meet the guy, but it just blew my mind. I'm like, I've petted a cow before.
Yeah, it's hard to pet a hologram.
Right. So, yeah, that was my favorite one so far. But how did you end up getting involved working with Jason specifically?
Well, when Ghost Hunters went on the air, I had been doing some, whether you call it amateur work or whatever. I guess it was more just of a curiosity and a hobby, looking into paranormal things myself. I used to do a little bit of, I'll call it ghost hunting, but it wasn't ghost hunting by the standards that Ghost Hunters TV show set. It was more of just, walking through a cemetery and getting creeped out. But I was curious about it. So I went to an event shortly after Ghost Hunters started airing, where Jason and Grant from Ghost Hunters were there. And I was there 3 minutes, not even 3 minutes, and I ran smack dab into the two of them coming off an elevator. And we started talking, and we were basically inseparable from that point through the rest of the weekend. And by the time the weekend ended, we'd already decided that we were going to do business together, because I had a lot of interests and experience that they needed in the things they were doing. And one of those things was a magazine they had just started that was not doing very well, and I had been in the magazine business for a long time as well. So I agreed to take over the magazine and run it for them, and that was kind of the start of our business relationship, and the friendship started and the business relationship started all at the same time, and they continue through today. And Jason knew about my radio experience, and he'd always wanted to do a radio show as well, so we started talking about that, and sure enough, in 2015, we kicked it off.
Are they still plumbers?
They are still plumbers by trade. They don't have a lot of time to do any plumbing, but they are still plumbers.
Oh, that's funny. That's not the answer I expected. I figured they'd be done with that.
Well, like I said, they don't have a lot of time to do it, but they do it, and they still work with Roto-Rooter.
And now at your conventions, do you bring in the paranormal type side of things? Are there psychics and ghost hunters and that sort of thing at the conventions as well?
We do that. At this particular one, we don't have any necessarily paranormal celebrities this time around. It's just the way it worked out. But we do have some paranormal groups that'll be coming. I'm not sure about psychics. I haven't looked at the vendor list recently. We tend to get a lot of psychics that come as vendors. Our New York show doesn't allow psychics because we hold it on an Indian casino, and they will not allow psychics on the property, or at least they won't allow people to come and do readings and those kind of things on the property. So we don't have them there. But the New England show will probably have some of those. And, we do bring paranormal, quote-unquote, celebrities in, reality show celebrities in when we can. We just don't have any on the docket this time around.
Now, so I'm going to ask a little bit of a loaded question because I do know the answer because a friend of mine has a table at Scaricon. Do you get artists in?
Yes, we do. And the artists are, it is, like I said, it's all pretty amazing. And we get artists that come in and they set up their artwork and you walk by and you're like, wow, this is incredible. These aren't the types of things you see at a craft shop on Main Street. These are very, very unique pieces of artwork, and they tend to be horror themed, or at least kind of macabre, if you will. And it's amazing stuff. And we get a lot of artists that participate in our events, and none of them disappoint me. They're all amazing. And
I believe when we talked on our Lost episode, you talked about a vendor that had kind of like oddities, like, things in jars and stuff like that. Is that a regular thing, or was that, honestly, I can't remember if that was all the time or if that was just one particular vendor.
Well, let me just say something about the quote-unquote Lost episode. I was brilliant in that interview, so you know.
It was the greatest work I think either one of us have ever done.
It absolutely was. We have a vendor that's been in a number of our shows where he has oddities and obscurities, and it's just a lot of weird stuff. It's almost like walking into a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum where you see, the jar of the pickled three-headed pig, or the baby, the calf that is got 7 legs. These really strange, almost disturbing things. And he brings these things to the event, and he has some things for sale, but some of them he just sets up almost like a museum or just a display. He's been at many of our events. I am not sure if he's at this one or not. I haven't looked at the vendor list recently, but if he is, it's well worth checking out.
Do you know if he's out of New York? Because I know there was a reality show that was an antique store that I can't remember the name of it, but the show was literally called Oddities, and it was very much like that.
That is the guy. That's the guy.
I've met him at shows. They're very nice people.
Yeah, they're terrific people. Love having them at the events.
And so that's kind of an interesting thing about conventions when you vend at them, and even some of the attendees that go to many, many conventions, it becomes a tight-knit group, almost a family, because you see the same people over and over again, and vendors will share hotel rooms, and I'm assuming that's the kind of vibe you're going to expect here in Framingham.
Oh, it absolutely is. The vendors become friends. We have a vendor called Deadly Grounds Coffee who started vending with us, 5 years ago maybe, has been at every one of our shows. And we have another vendor called Dark Side Inc. who started with us at the very first Scaricon. And this is just an example. The two of them met at, Scaricon 5 years ago. They room together now. They travel together. They cross-promote each other. They're very, very close friends. And that's the type of relationships that build, not just between attendees who will also do that. They'll share rooms at the next one or whatever. But the vendors have the same experience.
Yeah, I've done tons of conventions since the early 90s, and they're like long lost relatives almost, because when I go to Jersey, I'm going to see so and so, and you hang out and you go to dinner and have some drinks, and it's always good to get to see your old friends.
Yeah, like I said, the social component of these events can't be overstated, and you do make friends, and they become lifelong friends. And I know personally, as the guy who's put the shows on, I have hundreds of friends These are attendees that make an effort to come up to me at one of the shows. We chat a little bit. I see them at the next show, and we develop relationships. And whether, we just kind of back and forth on Facebook, or because we can only see each other twice a year at these events, but we develop these relationships. And I know that happens between attendees. I know it happens between vendors and attendees and celebrities. I mean, it's a family. It becomes a family.
Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of family, a lot of people would think of a horror convention as not being a family event. Would you say they are or they aren't?
They definitely are. There is very, very little that would be on the show floor that would be disturbing or problematic for children. Very little. There is, some people dress a little provocatively at times. Clearly no nudity, but there's some provocative dressing. And there's some things that are, blood images, whatever. And that's up to parents to kind of steer kids away from if that's a problem. But in general, it's very, very family friendly, with the exception, of course, of two things. One is the late night parties are not for kids. And some of the films. Some of the films are quite graphic, both for violence, gore, and nudity. So I would avoid bringing kids into some of those films. We're not showing any Disney films, unfortunately, at the horror convention, so you got to be aware of that. But beyond that, it's very, very kid-friendly, and the vendors and the celebrities love seeing kids. And to make it even easier, children 10 and under are no charge to get into the event if they come with an adult.
Oh, see, that's great. And there's nothing creepier, I swear to God, it happens at every horror convention, than some little girl dressed up as like a creepy, possessed doll-looking character, and it's unnerving.
Yeah, it really is. There are a couple things that are always creepy. Dolls are one of them. Clowns are another one. And we tend to have a lot of both. We have people who dress up in as clowns at every event, and they'll kind of walk up behind somebody, and the person turns around and they see this creepy clown behind them. That does happen, but it's all in good fun. It's all part of the nature of what we're there for, and it's nothing malicious. Right.
You don't go to a horror convention if you don't like to get a little spooked.
Exactly. You have to really like it. And I'm always amazed at some of the kids that do come, 5, 6-year-old kids dressed up like Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers or whatever it happens to be. And they love it. They absolutely love it. I'm thinking to myself, man, I don't think when I was that age I could handle that kind of thing. But I guess kids are a little more sophisticated these days.
I guess. Yeah. Between, video games and whatnot, they definitely have a wider variety of entertainment to interact with.
They're a little more hardened than we used to be, I guess.
So where can people go to find more information online about Scaricon?
The website is the easiest place. It's scaricon.com. If you can't remember that, just Google, Framingham Horror Convention or whatever, and it'll come up. We also have a Facebook page which provides regular and frequent updates as to what's going on. But either of those places are a great start. And the event is June 16th and 17th. That Friday night is the 15th. That's when that informal social gathering will be. We've already sold out vendor space, so we don't have any more room for vendors. There is an email address if you're a vendor and you're still interested in case we have a cancellation. That's just vendors@scaricon.com. Send an email and we'll put you on a list. But yeah, it's shaping up to be quite a weekend. We're really excited.
Yeah, and I'd encourage people if they do have questions that whoever handles your Facebook has been extremely responsive. I mean, that's how we got in touch with you, and the information's there, the website's there. When I don't want to just overlook Framingham, but is there one coming up again this fall? Is that when you do Syracuse?
Yeah, it's at Turning Stone Casino, which is about 25, 30 miles to the east of Syracuse. That's the only location within the area that can hold us. And in fact, I will say the Framingham location, as great as it is, we're already at capacity there. I don't know how that's going to shape up. We might have to, I don't know. We're going to have to be careful about how we grow. But Turning Stone and the New York event is scheduled for October 28th weekend, which is the weekend right before Halloween, which makes it kind of cool.
Yeah, and honestly, the thing that I really like about this one coming up in Framingham is it's in the springtime. It seems like every convention in New England is all jammed into the same 12 weeks in the fall. So it's really nice to have something in the spring.
Yeah, I agree with that. June is a difficult time for some because of graduations and, beginning vacations and that kind of thing. But I think as far as what we were trying to do, it works pretty well. And as people get used to our event being on that weekend or at that time frame, they start to clear their calendars ahead of time so they can attend. So it's working out pretty well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for supporting podcasts and, giving us a table. So hopefully, sure.
I want to say, I just want to say something about that. If you're listening to this podcast, obviously you know what these things are about. The podcast community, it's basically fans who are trying to not just disseminate information, but demonstrate their love for whatever the genre happens to be, whatever your podcast is, and they do it with a heart and soul that's unmatched. You don't get these kind of interviews on regular media. You don't get them on, TV. The podcast community, it's almost an underground community of people who are fanatics about what we're talking about. And that's why it's important. Plus, somebody who's been in radio all my life, I have a real appreciation for what goes into this kind of thing. So I think it's important that podcasters are recognized. We're actually looking at trying to take this a step further and introduce podcast awards and that kind of thing to create more recognition for people who dedicate themselves. I mean, it's no small task to be, whether it's a weekly or a monthly podcast, whatever it happens to be, that's quite a commitment. And people don't understand how much work goes into this, setting up interviews and editing and recording or whatever it happens to be. It's a lot of work. So this community, the podcast community, deserves recognition and support, and that's what we want to do.
Yeah, and it feels really nice to be appreciated. And sometimes you look at the podcast community and go, oh, it's just overloaded with a bunch of people in their basement sitting and talking. But there is quite a bit of work that goes into it, and we try to be as professional. And I feel really horrible about depriving the world of that Pulitzer Prize winning interview that is now gone forever.
I know. Maybe somewhere it'll turn up in digital space somewhere. I don't know, but yeah, that was quite a piece of art that we did there. I want to do one more thing before we go. I want to, and you can pick the promo code, but I want to offer a promo code for anybody listening to the podcast who wants to jump on the website and get an additional 10% discount to the already online discounted pricing for admission. But you pick the promo code, and we'll set it up so that your listeners get a little bonus there.
Well, how about we do Lost Episode?
Lost Episode is the promo code. All lowercase, Lost Episode, one word.
Okay, perfect. And JV, thanks again for giving us more time. And we appreciate what you're doing as far as creating events. I feel like a lot of people will complain that there's nothing to do, but do nothing to make something happen. And so I appreciate that from the people who put on the events.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show, and I look forward to hanging out with you in Framingham. We're going to have a great weekend.
Outstanding, man. And thanks again.
All right. Thanks for listening to our podcast. Don't forget to check out our other podcasts. There's the Bar Talk podcast, there's Old Colony Cast, and, of course, the Inebri-art podcast along with Jam Packed. You can find all those on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. If you're on some sort of service and you can't find it, let us know, and we'll help you out and or add our podcast to that, too. You can contact us at Inebri-art@yahoo.com and follow us on Facebook as well as Twitter at Inebri-art. And feel free to send us some tips, ideas, advice, hate mail, whatever it is, you can get us there. And again, thanks for listening.